Well, we're live.
Hey,
Well, welcome
awesome.
to this program of Spiritual Solutions, and my guest today is Grace Bell, and you're going to hear more about Grace as she shares with me uh, about the work that she does. I met Grace about a year ago at a seminar both of us were attending, and we were standing in line, I think, having breakfast, and I ran across her again when we went to the gym, and I've been following her wonderful blog, Grace Notes, and I invite you to sign up for that to really get some inspiration and insight from her. And Grace, among other things, helps people change their world in the simplest way you can imagine by questioning and unraveling their own stressful beliefs and finding within themselves a peaceful mind in any situation. I'm going to ask her about that. Any situation.
You got
It's
it.
actually a mission for herself because she questions her own beliefs and has really walked this path a great deal in her life to find the comfort that she's been seeking. So she's been helping people get unstuck from the turmoil by asking those simple questions known as the work by Byron Katie. And that is a form of inquiry that dissolves the stress in the world that we all go through from time to time. It turns the war that's always in our minds, I would say, into having a life of peace. And so where you can love your life again without changing anything in the outer, without changing people, without changing circumstances, which he says is impossible to do anyway. And it allows you to move to that point of being happy and have that stress-free life. She says you can be happy right now, regardless. She's a trained and certified facilitator in the work and has done it since 2003. She has a master's degree in applied behavioral science, and she's given a great deal of emphasis to recovery from her own addictions and, most importantly, obsession with food and eating. And she is interested in how people wake up. So without any further ado, I welcome you to Grace Bell. Grace, good to have you here sharing with
Awesome.
us today.
Fabulous to be here. Thank you so much, James.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the work. What's your story? What's your background?
Mm, good question. So, being a trained counselor and having my master's degree, I was really interested, only working as a part-time counselor, but very interested in whatever was the latest, self-help book and how people find peace, become comfortable, and as you all know, there's many, many of them. But Byron Katie's book came out, and I think I waited for it to come out in paperback.
Was that the Loving What Is?
Loving what is, loving
Yes.
what is, and that's that basic, overall manual really for this kind of self-inquiry and the questions that Byron Katie uses. And this tradition is something that's been done, into decades and centuries, really, like almost beginning, who knows who it began with, but Socrates had this dialogue that you could, ask yourself what's really going on and kind of pause and wait, and whatever maybe mindfulness is that we're calling mindfulness these days. So
Yes.
she had this simple recognition of thoughts and how to slow things down and then like narrow it down to only 4 thoughts. And they're
Hmm.
really very powerful and broad. And I got her book and I read it and I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's cool. And I, sort of looked around in my day and then kind of went about my business and forgot. I saw it over there. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. There's this process, not just the inspiration of reading people's stories or reading the whole book. And let me see if I could do that. I'll sit down on my couch and do the work. And so I
Yes.
sat down and the very beginning part, we'll go a little more into this, but the very beginning part is just identifying what's bothering you.
Yes.
And that can be sort of overwhelming for human. I mean, what's bothering me? Like, you really want to know? Let's see. War, starvation, unhappiness, car
There's a
accident.
litany of things that you could come up with that could be bothering.
Yeah. Difficulty of that. But the suggestion was to narrow it down to something specific in your life. And the exercise said to answer these questions, and you can call it a judge your neighbor worksheet. Judge your neighbor worksheet.
Mm-hmm.
I help you identify what's bothering you. And I said, well, okay, neighbor. Yeah, my neighbor kind of bothers me. My actual neighbor. She come over all the time. She's always knocking on the door and borrowing things, and she calls me too much. That's sort of irritating. So I'll write it on my neighbor. I didn't have, all the other things in the background were maybe a little too much. So
Yes.
I started with that. And, then so I did the writing where helps you identify your situation that bothers you. And then you move over here and you begin to ask yourself these questions. And I would find my mind would scamper off into 100 directions. The very first question is it true? Is it true what you're thinking? Is it
Yes.
true what you believe? And say, like, is it true? Of course it's true.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know if it's true. It was almost like confusing,
Yes.
And I kind of get up and go, like, do the laundry and get up, a few days would go by. And it felt really difficult to actually do the work. It felt
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty disconcerting to question, things that you're going through that probably on some level you always assume, of course, it's true.
Yes, yes. And you kind of got a pattern, like, and some of the painful ones, which later, once I learned to do the work, and then bumped up against life and some the kinds of situations that feel more dramatic, like you're losing all your money.
Yes.
It's like, I need more money. Is it true? Of course, yes, I do. And the feeling inside of fear and looking at that. What's the truth of this situation? Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, it's terrible. I can't let that go. It really is true. The thing
Yes.
that I
Yes.
like about the work is, even if you're not sure about that answer, you just see what it is. You just can pause, and then you can go on to the next
Mm-hmm.
question and the next question, and then find turnarounds, and you can still find insight. So it took me a while to, like, really do that work, really sit down. In fact, I had the book, and I had tried that on my neighbor. She calls too often. I'm kind of writing up the answers, like, okay, I'm not sure if that, what that did for me,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
when I was done. And then it was holidays, and I went to my mother's house with all my family, 3 sisters, and everybody's married, and all these kids, and and so there we are in a big family gathering. Sometimes people, find tension and stress and happiness and all of it,
Yes.
family gatherings. And there, when I was at this big, I think it was Thanksgiving or something, um, there was one of my sisters, and she
Yes.
was contentedly sitting in the corner, with her husband next to her, and they're holding hands, and she's just very quiet. And that's going on for a while, and I'm like, that's not how she usually acts.
So this was unusual for her to be acting like she was acting at that time.
Yes, yes. I went over there and I sat next to her and I said, you know, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
She is a statistician and very, brilliant in her mind. And my perception, my story of her was that doing all this woo-woo stuff, like, counseling and personal growth and like looking at yourself is a little bit, in this woo-woo world,
Yes.
numbers are good. Numbers and science are good.
But you didn't see her as being a person who would be involved in that kind of work.
Yes, yes, exactly. So it was just sort of my story. Sat down next to her, what's happening? We got in a conversation and she said, well, I really have had a most profound experience. I went to a personal growth retreat. I'm like, really?
That really got your attention, I imagine.
Yeah. What on earth? What's happening in the world? She's going to a personal growth retreat. And it turned out she went to the school for the work of Byron Katie,
Mm-hmm.
which is 9 days long. That's a pretty long, involved retreat.
Yes.
And the reason she went is because her husband had gone 6
Mm-hmm.
months before. And she said, I said, that's amazing because I have this book. It was out there. I just
Yes.
bought the book and I was just trying to do the work. And I said, I asked, what is one of your, the things you learned that was affected you the most? And she said, how our father died? Yes. Yes, I do know that. She said, I realized he didn't really die. it's not true.
Hmm.
And we wound up having this beautiful conversation about what that means, and that
Yes.
we held the image of our Father in our mind, and we could even talk to him and kind of know what he would say back. And maybe he's not here in a body, but it didn't
Yes.
have to be so painful, our story about death. And that was
Yes.
very profound. So I got on the next airplane that went to my work and signed up for the next one, because I thought, I felt something in the book, but I couldn't really quite understand, and I realized that my sister had had a very profound change, and I decided I needed to go immerse myself in it to understand these questions and understand what was going on.
So that was a very profound question to challenge a belief about death, because I think most of us believe that when we die, that's the end of it.
Yes.
So to ask that first question, is it true, about something that seems to be ingrained in most of consciousness, was a pretty transformative, I guess, experience for one to have another answer to what they believe to be true.
Yes. I mean, isn't that amazing? So many of us being human beings that are in a body, it's this thought of death and the recognition that we are all going to die.
Hmm.
Everyone's going to die. Um, is and then immediately the story about that. It's going to be that's so, because this is a temporary visit here. That's sad,
Yes.
or depressing, um, or if somebody else dies, I miss them. There's a loss. It doesn't mean there isn't grief, and there is this experience of loving connection with people. But just to have that story even a little bit, not quite so deeply troubling, is
Hmm.
it can really, at least it had for me, change how I experience all of reality and other people have their bodies, and my own sense of death and how I'm moving towards that eventually.
So would you say that one of the benefits of the work is to relieve suffering or pain as a result of our attachments to our beliefs?
Yes, I mean, it is just amazing. All you need to really do, this is what I found, is question what it is you're thinking. You
Hmm.
don't even have to have a set answer or really, suddenly discover the meaning of life or the answer to all things. It's or to your own personal dilemma, but just simply opening to, this might not be absolute the way I'm
Hmm.
thinking about it. And even
Yes.
if I have stress, if I feel like, everybody's got a compass inside, they kind of feel uncomfortable about
Yeah.
something. What Byron Katie says is, when you feel that, and you feel unhappy, you can know you are believing something that is not actually true for you. Because,
Mm.
so it's something's
Yes.
telling you that you're like getting caught in a story. You're kind of you're getting worried or fearful, or something's going on there, and then you can just sort of slow yourself down and see what you're thinking.
So you'd say the first question in this process, you ask yourself, whatever your discomfort you're going through, is it true?
That's right. Is
So,
it true?
yeah. So after that, you go, because that would shake up your world in and of itself.
Yeah,
So what's
exactly.
the next, steps? If you could tell me what the process is after that, the next step,
Okay.
the
All right.
process.
So, first little kind of second part A or part B to this very first question is, if you answer yes, you're very distraught, you feel really upset about something, or somebody has done something, done you wrong, or whatever kind of situation you're in, you really feel a lot of uh, upset, whatever it is. The second part, so your answer is yes, it's true, it's true. Like, my father died, it's true, and I don't like it. The second part is it absolutely true? Like, it's almost as if this is the one question where she suggests, just check, just absolutely double check. If you were the final say in all of the universe and you get to say whether this is true or not, just see what your answer is. Because sometimes when people think about that, well, I don't know if it's absolutely true.
Mm.
I'm sometimes people have a lot of self-talk towards themselves.
Yes.
You know, I'm a failure. I'm not making it. This isn't good. Can you know if that's absolutely true?
Mm-hmm.
No, not absolutely. Not absolutely, 100%, but be no shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
So you just check in with that one. You know, check in with that first question. And then you go on to the next question, which is, how do you react? What happens when you are believing this thought, this painful thought, this story?
Yes.
And you just see, how do you react? And it's pretty broad. You know, you see how it feels inside your body, like what your feelings are, how you act with other people, you know, how you treat them, what you think about yourself when
Yes.
you're believing this thought.
Okay.
Yes, so you just watch.
Yes.
And we can do that with one. You know, there's some very big areas where people often get caught or feel really anxious about life. You know, this one about death, so big. You know, death and dying. But even just in daily life, money and how much you've got, and if you're going to be okay, if you're going to be secure, your health, which is kind of related to, you know, I mean, this idea of we're all going to die eventually, but if you have a threat to that, you know, this possibility, you get a diagnosis or something.
Yes.
Even something that's not terminal at the moment, you feel anxious, so that's an area. And then relationships, people that you love in your life. Often Byron Katie herself will begin with, you pick a relationship where somebody bugs you, you know.
Yes.
You start right there.
Yes. They say those are the people that really help us grow.
Yes, yes. I for a little while I said that my teenager daughter was my guru.
They were here to teach you some big things.
Yes. It's like, oh, look at that. I really am believing very stressful stories about her. You know, she shouldn't speak to me that way. She's disrespecting me. They all come in. Here come the ideas. They're flowing right in your mind, and you're like, you know, she needs to be put in her place, or or worry about our kids. It's such a big one, kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for each one of those things you ask, is it true? And then you ask, is it really true? And then you have to say, okay, most of the time we'll probably conclude it's probably not true. That means it opens us up to other possibilities of how to see it.
Yes. Even if something feels like, feels very true, more often than you realize, many people I work with seems like something's so true, but when you really absolutely, they'll kind of like, well, I don't know, absolutely. And that does make something lighter, you know, it brings in often fear begins to dissolve because you realize, you know, it's your stories running. And a key thing to do with all this is identify sort of specifically what it is that you don't like, because the mind is so amazing and full and big, and it'll just, you know, look at all the things of the world that maybe could be improved.
Yeah. And there's a lot of them that come bombarding our minds every day.
Yes. And what I like about this work is you just narrow it down. You think of one, like money, for example. I had at a time when I was going through a divorce a decade ago, and luckily I had the work. I began to do the work, and my income was plummeting, and my savings were plummeting, and the housing market was going down, so I couldn't even sell my house, and it was like the ship Titanic is going down, and very frightening, you know, lots of images of what the future is going to look like, and I'm going to be living in my mother's basement or something, you know, it's like terrible, really.
The facts look so overwhelming, and then of course our mind goes to the next extreme of what it's going to lead to.
Yes, and I could identify the thought, so it's helpful to get specific, like the concept that I'm actually running, I'm operating out of is, I desperately need more money. This has to stop. This situation has to stop. You know, and you just, oh, help. So I would just come back to that, like you can even write down. What's helpful is writing down that concept, so you're looking at it and you see that's what I'm questioning. that I need more money. I must have more money, ASAP. And is it true? Yes, yes, yes. Then I absolutely know that it's true. Seems like it's true. Seems like this is not going in the right direction. Things are not good. But when you really look at it, I'm sitting quietly on a couch. Is everything okay? At the moment, everything is actually okay.
Yes.
I'm alive. So it's not absolutely true. And then you see that next question, how do you react when you believe I need more money or whatever it is? You just sit there and focus on that one thing, one at a time, that you're looking at.
Okay, so you narrow down your focus to the thing that's really concerning you. And you mentioned something that's important to do, is that you write it down.
Yes.
What's the power of writing it down? Why is that effective?
Love that question. I love that question because I was definitely one of those people at the beginning. And then when I was kind of just capturing the work, I'd be driving in my car. I'm just going to do the work in my head right now. It's true. And that happens anyway because it's the mind. You get really interested and eager in questioning stories, but the mind is just so fast. It's so fast. It's like you want to freeze it on paper. You see that one thing and you come back to it. And I think this is how I've experienced my thinking, is that it's sort of like it's very busy either trying to avoid what doesn't work. You get away from the bad stuff and gather in the good stuff. So it's just like busy doing that. And if you see something uncomfortable or difficult, it'll sometimes has an incredible power to avoid that, avoid looking at it. So when you write it down and have it sitting right in front of you on a piece of paper, your concept, I need more money, I believe it. Then you can just you look at that again, so that you remember what you're thinking, because it's sort of a trickster, the mind.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you almost get in an observer mind where you can see, you can almost take your thought out of your head, put it somewhere away from you, and look at it from a distance and get a better perspective.
Yes.
What it's actually saying to you.
Yes, yes. And I love it because it's not to underestimate the power of the mind to kind of get distracted, I mean, I have been, I'm working with people and they're discovering something, like looking at how they react and what they think and how they feel and how they are when they're believing a certain thought. And then they'll say, what's my thought again? Like, it's really funny, you forget. And I've done the same thing. I'm doing the work myself, and I'm like, okay, what's my situation? What am I working on? Very funny. It's just the mind is so brilliant,
Yes. So I guess one of the things that helps us get, as I like to say, get control. But I have this analogy, like the steering wheel of our minds, because we've kind of let other people control the direction. If it could be messages we have gotten from our parents or from people that were our teachers, or what we get from the news or just from society in general, they start controlling what we believe to be true in our own thinking, and next thing you know, our life is almost getting out of control because our thoughts are getting out of control.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. You just see, it's like you see what's going on in your reality, and then you take situations that have happened that seem upsetting, and you're like, that is my proof. That's my proof that pain is real.
Yes.
You just don't even question it. You kind of, then it just gets locked in, and then you keep going. Yeah.
And then you look for supporting that belief.
Yes. It's amazing. Yes. So, of course, when you're young and you're a child and things go all the way back, I mean, you're just like born into you hear people say things and you love these people that are around you so much, and you just trust them and kind of follow them. And I love that's another little thing, little story vignette that Byron Katie herself speak of sometimes. She said, your mother said the sky is blue. That's the sky.
Yes.
And you just say,
okay. Says the sky is blue. She's the universe. She's the universe that I revolve around.
Yes.
So you accept that, then you start accepting everything else.
Exactly.
That is going to be beneficial to you.
Yes, you got it. So
That's terrific. Well, I know that you have a number of programs that you offer that applies the framework of the work. Can you tell me about some of the programs that you have that
yeah,
help people?
yes. Well, I began to see like that this narrowing down process and looking at, specifically different topics, they'd come up over and over again. And so I started developing like little short 8-week, like 2-month programs where people could get on the phone together. And if we had them on these big topics like relationships and divorce, like breaking
Yeah.
up, very painful for people. Uh,
Yes.
Health, like when people get a cancer diagnosis and or some other kind of form of health that feels very frightening, and even ongoing pain, money, parenting, so
Yes.
and food and eating, which was like sort of my primary as a teenager, young athlete, and I wound up developing bulimia, and
Okay.
that was my doorway into, I swear, the spiritual world. Seems kind of
Yes.
funny, but when you have a really big dilemma,
Hmm.
it's time to do something. So, and now I feel grateful that happened for me when I was 20.
Yes. Well, I think most of us that get on this spiritual path or this personal development usually go through some challenges, some pain, some stress.
Yeah.
Because I think we can grow through insight, but most of us grow when we got kicked in the cosmic keister.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I love doing all these, and I'm in the middle of a new program. Really, it's just a greater development of something I've already been teaching called Eating Peace. But I
Yes.
found that people need a little more than just 2 months, once a week. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of ways you can change what you're thinking, question what you're thinking when it comes to food and eating, which is in our lives every single day. So
Yeah.
that's a wonderful. I'm just loving it. It's a 3-month program instead of two months.
Okay, wonderful. So I
Yeah.
imagine that you really get a chance to question your beliefs because I guess everything that we experience in the outer, whether it's an addiction or food addictions or challenges that we have with our relationships or monies, there's something internally going on that
Yes.
is causing that external experience. And sometimes we try to change the external and we don't go to the inside where the real source is.
Yes. Which is really, it's the fourth question. It's the last question. Is it true? How do you react? Like, what happens when you're believing it? And the fourth question is, who would you be without that belief?
Wow.
Use your imagination. What would
Mm.
it be like? Sometimes people are like, oh, I never even thought about that before.
Yeah, they didn't really think that there's an alternative way they can believe in another way that they can actually be.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
what if you were just somebody and you were living and you're right here and you didn't have the belief, in the example I used earlier, I need more money right now in this moment.
Yes.
And you get to have, it's just sort of, you might notice other things come up like, no, but wait a minute, then I wouldn't try to get more money. I just like lay on the floor and lay on the couch all day. Well, is that true? Maybe not. And you just
Yes.
kind of like get to watch and see who would I be if I just didn't have that stressful story about my
Mhm.
life at this moment. And the mind is very imaginative. People will think I
Yeah.
don't have imagination, but you're okay. You'll be
Yes.
you
Yes.
will. You do.
Well, it seems that one of the things they look at the work is the power of the question. I think I've always said that the quality of the answers you get is dependent upon the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. And the foundation of the work is really asking quality questions that can take you off an attachment of a belief and open up yourself to other possibilities that you hadn't thought of because you're so focused on that. Well, this is true. There's no other option to me to think otherwise.
Yeah, you put that
So,
so well. That's so
yes,
true. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yes. You kind of you just all your focus is on fixing the thing that's
yeah,
wrong. Well,
yes,
what if nothing was wrong right now? Whoa, that's different. You know.
yes.
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, if folks wanted to stay in touch with you and maybe receive information, particularly your blog that I do read on a regular basis, I find so helpful and inspirational. How can they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is workwithgrace.com. Work with Grace.
Work with
And
grace. I love it. I like. I get not a
isn't it great?
double
Basically,
down like.
Whatever, applying force, I think is how they put it, but it's not really, it's not negative force. It's like doing your part. You know,
Yes.
you make the first move, and then grace is like this. It's nice having the name Grace my whole life, because then I'm like, oh, this is
Yes.
good for me. You
Yeah,
know,
it reminds you that there's that grace that's always
yeah,
there for us.
yes, just a gift. You know,
Yeah.
you do it, and you only have to do a little. You don't even have to do very much. You just a tiny willingness, you know, open to look at your stories, and then the gift of grace comes in, and it's so I love that. Work with grace.
Work with grace. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Grace. It's been graceful and wonderful to share with you this morning about the work, and so I encourage all of my listeners to check out your website and get your blog, Working with Grace. And I know it'll be a transformative experience for them. And I appreciate you so much, and looking forward to talking with you again. So thank you so much for taking out the time.
Wonderful to be with you today, James. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.